I think you said two things there that are like ridiculously important that we haven't really emphasized yet. The trust matters more than the returns, and the
Mhm.
trust matters more than what you put on the piece of paper. Anyone can write anything on a piece of paper, or even fake a video with AI, or even fake a data room, scary enough. So, meeting in person, you're 16 times more likely to close a deal. Trust me, living out in the middle of the ocean, we're the most remote inhabited island chain on planet Earth. I would not be hosting 30 live events next year with three kids at home if I didn't have to do in person events. But in person events is how people build trust. So, like, trust and conviction and clarity and being unique matter more than everything else.
Let's go!
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew R. Meehan alongside my partner, the professor, Luigi Rosabianca. What's on tap today, Lou?
Matt, I know we're both excited about this one. You actually woke up early. Today on the podcast, we have Richard C. Wilson. Now, Richard C. Wilson is the CEO of the Family Office Club. He's also the host of the Family Office podcast. I mean, this guy knows so much about family offices. He named his first two kids Family and Office. So, Richard, welcome to the podcast. I think we have to start at the very beginning. Adam and Eve of family offices. What is a family office so that our audience understands the concept?
Sure. Yeah. So a family office is simply a solution for managing the wealth for the ultra wealthy. So if you have a family office, you're almost always just a super founder, super entrepreneur that's learned how to make 7, 8, 9 figures a year. You've had an exit maybe for 7 or 8 or 9 figures a year. And it's important for people to know the term gets thrown around a lot. And there's just three main types of family offices. There's a virtual family office where you're outsourcing everything. Maybe you just have one half-time employee to help you manage your wealth. A single family office, you might have multiple full-time employees managing just your wealth, or a multi-family office where somebody is managing the wealth of 5 or 10 or 200 clients that are all worth like usually 10 million or more. Those are the three main types. And then, people will use it for marketing purposes to call themselves a family office for random reasons as well. But those are the three main types.
Yeah, it gets used lightly, that term, from what it used to mean.
Yeah.
So what are the benefits of a family office, a true family office? Not this amorphous figure, but what's the benefit of joining the Family Office Club?
Right. Well, the real reason to have a family office, before we get into our club, I want to make sure this is clear, is that if you are worth $200,000 and you make a mistake, the mistake probably is not going to cost you more than 5 or 10K at the worst. And you'll be sad about it. And it's a lot of money to you if you're worth 200K. But if you're worth $20 million or $50 million or much, much more, a mistake of missing something on taxes or filing things wrong or filing things late or messing up an investment could cost you $500,000 or $100,000 easy. And so when the consequences of a mistake are very costly and your time is worth so much more per minute and opportunities are flowing to you at 10 times the rate they used to when you used to be worth 200K, it means that your brain needs to be focused on your, like what Dan Sullivan would call unique abilities. You need to be focused on where you make the most per hour. You've worked hard enough probably to that point that you deserve to work on only what you want to work on as well. And so having a family office helps you have your diversification defensive team in place, real estate asset allocations managed, your tax planning well managed, all of your advisors talking to each other, how you're going to play offense on your balance sheet managed, and just kind of have 360 more medium to long-term management and planning being done all in an interconnected way. Because you're worth 200K, it doesn't matter if your CPA doesn't talk to someone who's helping you with your investments. Like it's just you're not going to miss anything that's like too huge, right? So the more wealthy you get, the more all those things I said become more true, and the more the founder should be focused on either whatever they want to do, which could just be playing golf, or driving forward their next business venture and tripling their net worth with their insight, their gut, and all their connections, et cetera. So I want to stop there for a second and see if there's any questions on that or anything to clarify before I go into what we do at Family Office Club.
Keep running with it, buddy.
All right, cool. I don't want to go on forever. But basically, given that, I started Family Office Club in 2007, so it's been 18 years now. And essentially, we're an investor club community of ultra wealthy founders who now, have what are called family offices. And so when I got started, people said I was wasting my time. This industry would never turn into something. But nowadays, family offices manage more wealth than all of private equity and all of venture capital combined. So it's $14 trillion in the family office space. And we have the number one website in the industry in terms of hits to the website. It's familyoffices.com. And the business is called Family Office Club. So we're hosting 30 live events a year. And then we transcribed 1,500 investor talks from on stage from our last 300 events and use that with other proprietary data we have to create 40 ready to use artificial intelligence tools for our clients. And essentially at Family Office Club, you just get to learn from the winners in the game of capitalism. You get to connect with potential investors, potential JV partners, source deals, source opportunities. And that's basically what Family Office Club does.
I love it. How did you come up with this concept?
Well, I started coming out of college. Nobody wanted to pay me more than $30,000 a year unless I wanted, they wanted me to manage a warehouse. I went to Oregon State University, not exactly Harvard. And so I said, I'm not doing that. Forget that. So I cold called everybody in the Portland Chamber of Commerce because I lived in Oregon. 3 people gave me an informational interview. One lady said, yeah, sorry, we can't hire you. You don't have 7 years of experience. So I said, okay, I'll work for free. I know I'm not stupid and you'll like me. So just fire me in the first hour if I suck. And she didn't. And she was paying everyone else on the team $100 per hour. So she paid me $40 an hour. And I made $100,000 a year my first year out of college, which was more than my professors who told me not to graduate early the month before. And then I used that to get my MBA. And then I got bored doing risk consulting, which was the job. And I said, who's going to pay a 23-year-old kid $100,000 plus a year? Like nobody wants to. And so I knew I had to do commercial real estate sales or raise capital because it's eat what you kill. I got job offers in commercial real estate, but then I found an influence and persuasion program through Harvard University's extension school, moved to Boston, started raising capital. And then I found out what a family office was and nobody was being a trail guide to me. And I was one of those kids that started a dozen businesses before I was out of college and high school and grade school, et cetera. So I was like, oh, here's a business where people actually are really thirsty for this knowledge and nobody wants to be the trail guide to the wealthiest people on planet Earth. So then we just started a blog and everything took off from there 18 years ago.
Awesome.
Richard, you use this term often in your podcast and your book called the investment strike zone. How important is it for a family office to develop that strike zone as opposed to shooting all over the place?
Super important. It's one of the top mistakes that I see people that are ultra wealthy at any level make. And you would think people worth 100 million plus would not make this mistake and similar mistakes, but they almost all do. So I would say that if you don't design your own game for your wealth, then somebody else is going to collect $200 every time you pass go. And they're going to design a board game where they win a lot. Right? So you need to design your own game. That's why you want to have a family office. Also, you need to grow your financial IQ. That's one of the reasons why you should come in person. And just at our annual event alone, we have 125 speakers on stage and 1,000 people in the room. So what you learn from 125 people speaking on stage over 3 days is amazing. And if your financial IQ does not grow faster than your balance sheet, then the world will correct that pretty quickly. And they'll say, oh, big balance sheet, low financial IQ. Let me balance that equation for you. And then you will lose all of your wealth very quickly, just like a lottery winner, just like an NFL player who gets a huge contract and then goes and leases 30 cars for their friends. So I think that is really important. And the reason you want a strike zone is that typically families don't understand that wealth advisors know one song, and it's called diversification. And they beat that drum for their whole life. And they have a very good purpose to diversify your money in public markets, typically, and make sure you don't lose it all. And you should definitely do that for part of your portfolio. But family offices typically think about it in 3 chunks. There's diversification, there's their real estate allocation into maybe 2 or 3 food groups of real estate, with a little bit of development, but not all risky development stuff, unless you're a risky person, I guess. And then the third area is where you play offense. And that is, where did you make your money? What's your unique skill set? Where's your edge? Where do you see the future going? Where you can really play offense on your balance sheet and make some really focused energy and dollar bets in that area that you're going to become obsessed with going forward and focus on. So Strike zone relates to that, but the same brain is probably not the right person to be advising you on all your public markets and all your real estate, but also on the consumer products niche where you made your money. I mean, you might not even need an advisor. You might just need people underneath you supporting you there. So that's all related to strike zone and why it's all important.
For purposes of the audience's understanding, would you define a strike zone as something along the lines of this family office only focuses on retail investments because they love the cap rate that they can achieve with luxury retail holdings, or is it a little bit more broadly defined?
Yeah, really good question. A lot of families, if there's an investor listening to this, a lot of families get hung up on the following. If you are not seen as the most strategic investor in somebody's head to show a deal to first, then you're losing basically, and you're not going to grow your balance sheet as fast. You want to be looking at deals first, exclusively, and at a better valuation. If you have a successful podcast like yours, you probably get to see some deals like close to first or first, and they might even give you a better valuation because of your network, et cetera. And so that's one of my motivations to run our club, is to get to see amazing deals. But the thing that families get hung up on is maybe they made their money in auto parts. They sold their auto part company. Now they're going out and saying, what should we do? And I say, okay, look at these 3 parts of your portfolio. We're not saying if you put out a name and position your family offices like Strategic Auto Part Capital, cool, the people actually know what you do, instead of Wilson Family Office. No one has any idea what deal to send you first. And then you go and give talks and you show off your expertise and you mentor other auto part company CEOs that might be deal flow for you in the future. Like, you're positioning yourself to see deals first, exclusively, and at a better valuation, because all those auto part CEOs want to be you when they grow up. They want to sell to private equity one day. They want to be able to do whatever they want and have tens of millions of dollars. And so because of that, people will get you access to deals at a much better valuation. And the thing that families get really hung up on is they're like, oh no, we already have this name for our family office. It's XYZ, means nothing family office. And oh yeah, well, we're not only investing in auto parts, we also invest in storage over here, and we do some multifamily, and we also invest in, it's like, all right, let's forget all that. No one cares where you diversify your money. We're talking about where you want to play offense, where you want to do like amazing deals where you get in 40% less valuation and you can make it go big, and you can get them into O'Reilly Auto Parts and on cars.com or autoparts.com, et cetera, and just make it go up, you know?
I love that. So, what are some mistakes people make when they're approaching a family office to invest with them?
Yeah, there's a couple hundred mistakes that just like everybody makes. And a big one is thinking the person with the biggest Rolex watch is the wealthiest person in the room. I mean, a lot of people, when you have 500 employees and a lot going on and just a torrent of things coming at you, like, I'm not worth $500 million, but we have 17.9 million social media group members in our social media groups. And the number of messages that come in per minute is pretty extreme. And so the wealthiest in the room might be some of the quietest, or just dressed like the 3 of us, right? And not like super over the top fancy. So I think that is a mistake.
You mean Instagram's not real?
Yeah. Yeah, some percentage of it, I guess. I mean, I did read that like 48% of all content is AI created now, up from like 5% 2 years ago or something. But I think the other mistakes that are like so easy for people to get wrong, and you can do all of this yourself. Like we have our internal marketing team of like 6 full-time people. And so like one of our divisions is pitchdex.com, and we can help people put this in place. But you don't need our team to do this. It's only if you want to go faster. Like, you can do this all yourself. But here's what everyone messes up in communicating their idea. First of all, they come out with a strategy that on the surface looks like everyone else's strategy, and it just bores people to death, and it just looks average, and you get lost in people's inboxes. So the most important thing is to laser focus all your energy on the thing which is most unique, has the most momentum, is the most essential, and then strip away everything else, so you're only doing the most scalable, exciting thing that people will lean forward to work with you on, right? So that's the premise of it. But then there's all these ways you communicate that, and almost nobody has these things in place. So you need a one-liner that in one sentence hits people between the eyes, shows you're credible, shows you didn't start doing this yesterday, and makes people lean forward. When you have the one-liner, you then need to script out 3 to 4 sentences and record a 1 minute video as the founder talking about your opportunity. It should start out saying, "Hi, I'm Richard Wilson. I run Family Office Club." And then after you say half a sentence, you can cut to your live event showing the ballroom full of 800 people, or you can cut to your manufacturing device or your real estate property or your consumer product, you know, in real life, et cetera, just to make it real and tangible. And you can cut the videos. It's very dynamic during that 1 minute, but it's basically something you could text message people or use it in your other materials. The other things people mess up is they get 40-page, 70-page pitch decks that nobody are going to read. It should probably be 12 to 15 or under 20 pages. The video we talked about should be on page 2 of your pitch deck. People would rather see a video from the founder and watch that than look at a 40-page pitch deck to decide whether to get on the call or not. And then everyone should have a one-pager. And so what I find is that oftentimes people have a pitch deck that's too long, a brand that's some Greek god capital. And again, we have no idea what the hell you do. Maybe be like Strategic Dry Cleaner Capital or Houston Self Storage Partners. At least I have an idea of what you do, where you do it, or why I should work with you. And then when you follow up from a conference, it's not Richard from Wilson Capital. It's like, should I reply to this guy? Can't remember what the hell he does compared to like 400 other people, right? So the main thing is here, like, start with something that is super unique. So if they understood it, they would lean forward and say, holy crap, I'm looking for that. I've never seen that before. But then you need to communicate it with the one-liner, the 1 minute video, the one pager, a short pitch deck, and integrate those items. We do that for people at pitchdecks.com, but like, you don't need us to do it. And like, none of our members do it, even though we tell them over and over again, investors ask for this every single day. And everyone like takes down notes. And then at the next event, like 2 people have done it. I'm like, what? You can do it like in 2 days, you know?
Yeah. When I was raising money for companies on Wall Street, we were doing private placements, IPOs. We had a book of business. We had relationships with our clients, right? But sometimes we brought in new clients. And one thing that I noticed is most of the time it's get straight to the point. I don't have enough time. How much money can I make? How much money can I lose? And how long am I going to be in this investment for? Right. And
Yeah.
got that? What's the opportunity? Okay, let's go. I can tell you 9 times out of 10, people didn't even know what they were buying. They just believed and they knew what their risk tolerance was. And it was something that they would move money into.
I think you said 2 things there that are like ridiculously important that we haven't really emphasized yet. The trust matters more than the returns, and the trust matters more than what you put on the piece of paper. Anyone can write anything on a piece of paper, or even fake a video with AI, or even fake a data room, scary enough. So meeting in person, you're 16 times more likely to close a deal. Trust me, living out in the middle of the ocean, we're the most remote inhabited island chain on planet Earth. I would not be hosting 30 live events next year with 3 kids at home if I didn't have to do in-person events. But in-person events is how people build trust. So like, trust and conviction and clarity and being unique matter more than everything else. And so I think that is so critical to emphasize. And so many people mess that up and they just think like, oh, I got the best return. This is like the most amazing thing. The other thing is that in investors' minds, what allows them to be at ease is a deal structure, a strategy, and a plan that ideally doesn't tie up their money for a long, long time. But even more importantly is like, what collateral is there behind the deal? What optionality is there? How much can I sleep at night? And how much is this deal structured so that first I get de-risks and I get my money off the table, then the person running the deal might start to make some money. And then after it's going really well, I don't care if they get paid really handsomely. They deserve it at that point if it's really good. But if you get a whole bunch of fees up front and you're getting paid really well before I'm even 100% de-risked, then that's kind of messed up and it's not really how it should go. And so the more it can be so that the investor comes in, can sleep at night and feel like, yeah, relatively low risk and I get a good moderate return. Like those are usually the deals that get done the most easily.
Yeah, I love the 1 minute pitch deck video, because one thing we're big believers in, and we do it with our business, is we're on social media all the time. Not because I want to be on social media, but because we get that
Yeah.
know, like, and trust factor from social media. Sometimes people will call me and they feel
Right.
like they know me already, right? Just by doing the podcast and by doing the videos. And let's say you do send out that 1 minute pitch deck and then you go to one of your events, that investor's there. He may come up to you and say, hey, I know you. What's going on? Tell me what's going on. Let's sit down and see if
Yeah.
there's something we could do.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the thing is like, we used to do conferences and then at every conference it'd be different people. And it also wasn't good for our revenue. We'd bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars one month and the next month would be operating as a nonprofit, because like there wasn't an event for 2 more months. Right. And then, so we learned to do a subscription model, but it creates a real sense of community. And, last week we kicked out and blacklisted a member of the community because it was just not being very like professional or kind or nice to someone. And like once every 2 months or so, we'll kick somebody out of the community. And we're always kind of pruning it, and everyone knows our values. And we start out every event saying, the more that you are a class act and do what you say you're going to do and are consistent and execute, the better you're going to do in this space. And make sure you add value to first to people and not just pitch, so you can actually build a real relationship. Because like that's what it's all about, right? Like we use the digital funnel to then meet in person to build real relationships. And most people are not going to invest unless it's a big Goldman Sachs, Blackstone, BlackRock brand. They're not going to invest more than 100K, 200K, 300K without meeting in person or walking your asset or walking through the company, or meeting you in person. So it's super critical to do that. We host our events in LA, Dallas, New York, and Fort Lauderdale, and we rotate around 30 times a year so that we're in the different regions and different parts of the US. So there'll be different people that come to LA versus New York, but there'll also be overlap. And there'll be even more overlap between the events only in New York, so we use that to build relationships. And selfishly, I invite my best investors to come to my events to show off what our team can do and who's speaking on stage. So our best investors that I know are invited to be in the room, and everyone gets to network with them. And then when I do a fireside chat with a billionaire or a centimillionaire on stage, I'm genuinely just asking them what I'm curious about selfishly, so I don't get bored at my own event, because I've been to 300 of these things. It's like you guys doing this podcast, right?
Yeah.
Like if someone forced you to robotically ask the same thing or like scripted it for you, it'd drive you nuts and you'd probably quit it, right? So those are all important things to realize about a community.
Rich, you just answered the question I was going to ask, because I heard you mention this term in the past called a trust flywheel. And you basically
Yeah.
just described what that was and the importance of having a trust flywheel at the Family Office Club. Give the audience a little bit more of a deep dive on how to apply that, maybe even to their businesses.
Yeah, sure. So first, as I always try to add value first, like I'll get access to $100 million net worth family because I'll just see a business. It's obviously doing very well, but I know a lot about deal structures. So I'll just reach out cold and say something related to helping them not give away any equity on their next deal, and just structure the deal in a smart way where the investor leaves happy, but they didn't get diluted a bunch. And I'll get a reply back sometimes the same day or the next day by adding value first. But the core of building trust, I think, is like a three-prong approach. They need to trust the team, they need to trust or understand the industry typically, and they need to trust the actual opportunity. So what happens is, like, if the trust in the team is so high and it's like your dad or your brother-in-law, they might not understand Bitcoin. They might not understand the exact coin that you want to invest in that's related to it, like some altcoin, but maybe they invest because they're like so high in the trust curve in the team. But when you start going out to investors that haven't already known you for 10 or 20 years and your past friends and family around, then it really comes down to how much trust is there in the relationship. Are they local to the deal, or can they travel to see it and really understand that exact deal? And then are they familiar with the industry so it doesn't confuse them, right? Like more people understand how self-storage works compared to data centers is a good example, right? So if you're going out to investors who in general already know you, and in general, you're only raising capital in the Los Angeles area because it's for a data center in Los Angeles, but they have no idea how data centers work, then a lot of your pitch deck and information should be educational on the data center opportunity, on the data center trend, on how data centers can basically contributed to GDP last year more than consumer spending across the United States, like all those types of things, right? And so you need to adjust your pitch based on who you're usually pitching and the dynamics of your industry. Is the industry confusing? Is it not? Who are you going out to? But then every time you get on a phone call or enter a room, you need to think to yourself, where are they on the three trust curves? If they understand my industry cold, I don't need to teach them what a data center is. I just need to teach them that I am the person to trust and I'm the jockey to bet on for their data center allocation that they've already decided to make or something, right? So it needs to be dynamic, but also kind of meta level just on your approach to materials overall.
Have you had many instances where multiple family offices in your club have invested in the same opportunity, where you've maybe syndicated or co-invested?
Yeah, many times, for sure. And one shortcut that I like to use is to look at a deal and think who would be the most strategic investor to this deal. We'll show it to them early and ask them some questions about it and get some of their due diligence, brain on it because they made their money in that niche. And then sometimes they'll either ask to come in on it because they see the opportunity, Or we'll say, if you'd like to take 20% or half of this deal or the whole thing, it would make our life easier not going to 5 investors or 20, and then just offer them sweetheart deal terms to come in and be that anchor strategic investor. And then if they bring in their capital for 20 or 50% of the deal, everybody else will follow, whether they made their money in that niche or not, because now somebody who spent 30 years in the niche has kind of blessed it with their own money. And there's a saying in the capital raising space that, if you ask for money, you might get advice. And if you ask for advice, you might get some money. That's not always true, but it's something just to keep in mind and bringing in, like if you haven't spent 30 years of your life in a niche and you're trying to do an investment there, it's just in your own best interest to bring in someone who could help with due diligence on that, who's like the super nerd on data centers or whatever.
Yeah. So I have a question for you. Do all the deals
Yeah.
funnel through your company before they get sent out to investors? So are you guys doing due diligence on these deals to make sure there's no bad actors, all the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted? How does that generally work?
Yeah. Good question. So basically, what happens is we have some investors who just come to our events once. We have some investors that come to our events all the time, and we have some where we help them set up their family office, figure out their strategy, and we'll act as kind of a board member or an outsourced CIO to their family office, et cetera. So that's kind of like on the investor side. Importantly, like whenever you go to a conference with hundreds of people there, at least in my experience, there'll be people in the audience and they may have registered and said what their company name is, but as the conference manager, we don't exactly know what's going to come out of their mouth, right? Are they going to market their brother-in-law's apartment building? Do they have some new idea and they're going to randomly pitch that new idea? Do they have 12 years experience in self-storage with 18 properties and that's what they're going to pitch? And they're very public about that. Like sometimes it's known, sometimes you have no idea what they're going to be saying when they come into your room, right? And so what we do is we screen the sponsors who speak on stage and look at what they're going to be speaking about. We had one at the last event where they had already paid, and we could not let them speak because it was like a political topic that would offend half the people in the room pretty greatly, I think. And I was like, it's not about whether I agree with it. I just know that half the people in the room are not going to agree with what you're about to say. We just don't want that at our events. And then we do have to kick people out that just overpromise or don't. One person was promising, and this is like an extreme example, it doesn't happen very often, but he was promising like 1,000% plus returns. And he was in the medical space, and we've done medical practice investments many times. We have a division focused on that within, for me personally, on my balance sheet. And so I asked him questions about it, and he didn't know his own revenue within his own 4 companies. And so I followed up again. And I was like, first of all, it's extreme to promise 1,000% returns. Second of all, what CEO doesn't know revenue in their own company? I was like, wait a minute, like huge red flag, right? So like we kicked them out of the club in the most polite way possible. But down the fairway are just real estate, private equity folks, founders, CEOs, entrepreneurs. And we're not saying, what are you going to say at the event? Let me vet what you're saying. Let me do due diligence first. You know what I mean? It's like, it's also not very practical.
Yeah.
We'll have 850 or 1,000 people at an event, and we'll have, 20 sponsors speaking on stage, 30 exhibit tables. A lot of them sign up 5 days before the event, some 2 days before. If something looks like a little bit out there on the spectrum, we'll poke at it and then take it out of the community as needed. But we always say at our events, like anytime you hear something on any podcast, any webinar, any conference, always do your own due diligence completely. Even if someone says they're my best friend, they've been a member for a decade and I've blessed it, or I put my money into it, like it may or may not be true, right? So like always do your full due diligence and don't, because like what's happened before is sometimes people will say, hey, can you introduce me to this family? I saw them speak on stage. Or a family will say, do you know any self-storage people in the room? I'll be, John does self-storage. Why don't you talk to John? And then because I made the connection, they'll put 7 figures with them and be like, oh, well, you made the intro, so I figured they were amazing. But it's kind of like, I was trying to be a little bit helpful, but, so I always have to caveat it with like, do full due diligence, like full, always, right?
Always.
and it's become such a thing that, I talked about liking medical. We organized a separate surgeon-led doctor and dentist only investor club called Doctors Investor Club.
Okay.
And we'll look at all types of deals, but specifically we like medical practices, but we'll look at all types, and it's free for doctors and dentists to join. And then we also formed a deep due diligence investor club ran by Mark Halpern, and that's just for like high net worth investors. There's 50 of them. We've put 10 million of equity checks to work so far. And they just conduct due diligence together as kind of friends in the space. You're not forced to invest in anything. There's no fund. There's no SPV. It's just a bunch of high net worth folks. And when deals come in, we use AI tools to analyze and rank them. And then we will see who has an interest. And then those 3 to 10 people will dig down on that deal together and just kind of talk about it openly.
So 40 different AI tools.
Yep.
What are the most used ones? And how did you guys, is it the standard stuff? Let me just, drop in tax returns. Let me see the numbers add up. Let me run through the financials, or explain them a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So we call our artificial intelligence tool set, investor super intelligence. We're basically trying to take the creation of super intelligence and help investors. So we've just taken the 18 years of closing deals and said to ourselves, okay, how does this usually go? And what could we do that speeds everything up? So I'll give you like 3 examples. Like, one is when somebody comes to our event and says they're an investor or a capital raiser, we just have to search on Google, search their LinkedIn profile, search their name in the word Ponzi scheme or fraud or conviction. Now we have a tool, we put in their name, location, company name, it searches 20 different things for us and tells us how much of an investor versus capital raiser they are, any bad reputation marks, a credibility score, all that stuff. So that saves my team a lot of time. But 2 more powerful tools are, one is called Deal Structure Ninja. This tool is trained on 1,000 deal structures. And you can tell it what you're trying to get done in terms of a deal. And you can say, I'm trying to buy a plumbing company that does 3 million a year in revenue, 700K a year in profits. I want to include seller financing, gross revenue royalties. I want a 3-year earnout. And the other side is afraid of this, this, and this. So give me 10 deal structures, leveraging the 1,000 you've been trained on. Give me 10 custom deal structures that meet all that criteria. It'll pump out 10 deal structures. You say, well, I really like 2.
I got to cut you off for a second. Do you see Luigi's face right now? That's like Christmas Day
Yeah.
for him. He just heard that. Look at him. He's like a little kid.
We'll shoot you over a link to this tool after the podcast so you guys can play around with it.
Awesome.
Yeah. And the cool thing is, once it pumps out 10 deal structures, you can say, I like number 2 and 8, make me 10 more like that. And then boom, 10 more deal structures. You can do that over and over again until you get a deal structure that is amazing for what you're trying to get done. And then it will write the email to the counterparty and your attorney explaining why each part of the deal structure is balanced, fair, and very effective. And that could change somebody's life. If you're selling your company or buying a company, many times it's not just about valuation. Many times it's the structure of the deal. And if you structure your deals well, you'll raise capital faster. And many times, like, I spent 12 years buying billionaires.com, and the guy told me to go away for 12 years. And I followed up every 3 to 4 months. And in the end, it was the deal structure that got the deal done. And so many times people tell me, go away, we're never going to do this deal with you. And because of the deal structure, we close the deal.
Richard, that is so critical, because besides the seller and the buyer, put into the mix the financing. And there's so many contingencies there. So the deal structure is critical.
Super critical. You give me an average deal, let me structure it however I want, and it will be amazing, right? And you show me a deal that you think is amazing, and then the structure is wrong, and it could just be horrible. You could get none of the cash flow, none of the collateral, get paid out last, be like flying naked on the deal where everyone else has security, right? It's like, it means everything. And people new to wealth or new to raising capital will overlook this for half a decade and wonder why they're struggling. And it really comes down to, like, all these components need to be in place. If your brand sucks and it's Wilson Capital and no one has any idea what the hell you do, yeah, it's going to cause friction, right? If you don't have a one-liner, you don't have a 1-minute pitch video, and you don't have a one-pager, and you're doing something that sounds like everyone else, and your structure is from your attorney who says, here's a best practice structure, and it's just a template he uses to charge you $40K and save himself a ton of time doing anything custom for you, like, yeah, you're going to sit there like dead in the water and get nothing done. So I think you have to learn all these things the hard way.
I want to touch on something, right? To talk about deal flow for a second. People think this $14 trillion market out there with all these family offices, they think they have infinite deal flow. They don't need you, right? They need more deal flow than anybody because they're actually putting money out there, right?
Right.
And if it's Mr. Wilson's family office, we don't know what they invest in. So I don't know what to bring you with deals that we structure to put on the table to bring to some people, right? I think that's crucial. Is there a directory or inside your platform of what the investment thesis is for these family offices or what they invest in before they invest?
Yeah, we do have Yeah, we have a level of membership where if you don't want to come to live events, we have 22,000 investor profiles, and it's called Investor Pipeline Builder.
Okay.
But then we have event membership. So if you only want to come to an event, but you don't need the 22,000 investor profiles, you could just get an event membership. If you want both, that's what VIP membership is. You get the data, plus you get the live events, etc. And so, but yeah, that is important. And one thing to know is that like families should wear on their sleeve where they're playing offense so they see those deals first. But just know that a family might say, we're obsessed with healthcare, we love healthcare all day long. But if they trust you, like you, and your story really makes sense and they connect with you and build that relationship, they may make an exception and they may be investing in real estate all the time as well. It's just not where they're playing offense. They still need to allocate to real estate. They still want some exposure to Bitcoin. They still want to like they still think healthcare is not going away, and AI is probably not replacing short term like a lot of like dermatologists, for example, or dentists or something like that. And so just because someone does say they're focused on a space doesn't mean they wouldn't also invest in what you're doing. They might just be following my advice of like wearing on their sleeve where they specialize. And the only last thing I wanted to mention on the AI tools is that the most popular tool has been something called Dewey, Instant Due Diligence Advisor. The best way to explain it is imagine you hired a nerd that was told read 150 white papers on due diligence, and these are checklists on due diligence and best practices on venture capital, angel investing, private equity, family office, institutional due diligence. And then basically you could text it 24/7 using this AI tool. You can message it on your computer or phone, upload a pitch deck, a PPM. It'll read every word and point out red flags, missing items, analyze it in 50 ways, pump out a whole analysis report on it, and then also give you 7 due diligence questions you should ask before you get on a Zoom, before you meet with this person, before you partner or even discuss a partnership with them. If they can't answer those 7 questions, you just saved yourself a lot of time. And it takes 30 seconds to pop it in there, pump out the 7 questions, understand the deal on a high level, shoot the questions over to them, see if they even reply or if their answers are horrible. And that saves investors so much time. They love that tool. I had over 1,000 due diligence reports done through that already this year.
Wow.
And we have billionaires and centimillionaires that follow up with us cold after giving it to them months ago, saying they're using it all the time. And it's just basically a massive time saver because it's going out and looking at all these things you always need to.
Yeah, everything that's come out of your mouth so far saves time. I remember trying to raise money on the Bloomberg terminal, trying to talk to hedge fund managers. So what do you invest in? What do you do? Now that the directory is there, due diligence is there, you can actually see what their strategy is before, if they're a short only fund, don't go and pitch them something long.
Right.
But that's good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so basically like what we're really seeing is that when we hosted our first AI workshop, we tried out 100 tools. Most of them didn't work. They're like half broken. You have to train them a bunch, and they still weren't working well for us. And that's when we started creating our own artificial intelligence tools that were kind of pre-trained and just ready to use with a click. So no one has to train the tool when they come to use ours. And so other people have raised $30 million and gone really deep on like, just tell us what you're raising capital for, and we'll create an AI pitch deck for you. And the ones I've tried of that type are just horrible right now. I'm sure they're getting better every day. But my main point is like what we see is other people are going super deep into like one functional thing. And a lot of these AI tools are fed by Wikipedia and Reddit and all these public podcasts, including like a podcast run by a 17-year-old who's never done anything in the investment world, right? And it's all getting fed into these AI tools. All of our AI tools are exclusively trained on data from our events, from confirmed investors, from family offices, et cetera. And so the difference is that I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe we have the most in-depth, broad spectrum, practical, powerful AI tool set for investors and capital raisers in the world right now. The only one that would compete is like Perplexity's like finance version that can do financial modeling and whatnot complex, but OpenAI is trying to compete with them too. And our tools are built on OpenAI. So it does a pretty dang competitive job with against Perplexity as well.
Listen, I can't wait to jump in there and try these out. I'm excited. I know Luigi is too. But look, Richard, we want to be respectful of your time. We appreciate you. Can you tell everybody where they can get in touch with you and find the Family Office Club if they're interested?
Yeah, sure. So the best place to see our event schedule and the membership application is just at familyoffices.com. We've got like a free book there. You could chat with the team there, or probably most helpful is to schedule a call with my team there at familyoffices.com. But also, my direct email is just richard@familyoffices.com. And then I try to get back to everybody super quick. And if you want to shoot me a text message, if that's easier for people, it's just 305-333-1155.
Awesome. Thank you so much. One question before I let you run. Where do you see,
Sure.
what asset class do you see money flowing into right now or flowing out of?
Yeah, good question. I see a massive challenge in raising capital for normal real estate syndications by normal sponsors out there, right? They're like having a real hard time. So it's just lack of money flowing in compared to where it was. I see a massive flow going into Bitcoin right now. Like everybody's bringing up Bitcoin to me proactively, talking to me about it, etc. They see it as a strategic allocation. And Ray Dalio, BlackRock, Franklin Templeton, Fidelity, these are all big names that are heavily invested in investing in Bitcoin. And so it's come up, 4 times more than it did just a year and a half ago. So I would say that is a big area. And then the question mark with families is like, how do we invest in robotics and whatever the next thing is like Bitcoin that we should have invested in 2010, 11, so we stop missing some of these waves that keep coming down the line. So that's kind of a topic of conversation. It's just kind of like, maybe it's living here in Hawaii makes me think about it this way. But when you see a set of waves coming, when you're surfing a wave, you're like, it wasn't the best position for that. I caught the wave, but I didn't catch it down the curl. I kind of got just kind of like the white water foam, and you want to catch it down the curl for maximum wealth velocity. And so positioning yourself for the next set coming in is super important, right? Investors know that intuitively.
Yeah, and you know how you do that, right? You got to be in the water.
Yeah,
You gotta
exactly.
be in the water.
Yeah. Yeah, you might have a wave or two crash on you trying to do that,
So you got to get back in the water. I love it.
Yep.
Richard, thank you so much. It was a great experience. Everybody, that's a wrap of the Liquid Lunch Project. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Let's go!